Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Bourbon Bikes and Business with Hank and Blaise. I am Hank. You are?
Blaise, good afternoon. How we doing?
Doing great. How are you doing today?
I'm awesome. Awesome.
This is going to be, I hope this show isn't a letdown after our last episode with my wife, which I think we're still seeing the results of it, but I think it's going to be a crazy good episode. But
That was fun.
we don't have wives with us today. That's okay. I think we nevertheless have some really good, interesting topics, and I have a project that I want to talk to you about that I think you're going to be interested in. So, today we're going to be talking about best places to shop online for bourbon. I will share some of my best places with everyone out there, giving up my glory holes, I guess you could say, or my honey holes, or whatever they're called. And I'll give you some details about shopping at each that may make it a little bit easier for you out there to know where you're going and what you're looking for and what you should be paying for. So that's the first one. The second topic we're going to be talking about today, specifically you're going to be talking about, is prepping for bike rides and what we need to plan for and what we should be doing to prepare for a good day out in the saddle. Is that right?
Yep, the basics.
All right. That sounds great. So before we really get into, Tucker is asking to come up onto my lap. Show. So there he is. The Tuck man is ready to put the show on. So he is good to go. So before we get into the show, what are we drinking today, Blaise?
I'm at the bottom of my bottle of this.
You're working your way through that one, huh?
Yeah, it's almost gone.
My goodness. Okay. Well, that sounds
good.
So today I don't think I've had this on the show before, but this is your Michter's Rye. So this is a steady go-to of a lot of people out there. The Michter's Rye, they make a lot of good products. I have the Michter's Bourbon as well.
That's a great drink. I like Michter's.
It's good pour. Yeah.
Yeah, I like their whole line. It's like Old Foresters, you can't go wrong with any of their...
They know what they're doing. So
yeah, definitely.
Cheers. That is very good.
Hear the cat in the background.
You hear Woody in the background. So he's made his appearance on the show too. We kind of have a zoo going on here these days. We got puppies, we got kittens, we got kids, we got all kinds of stuff going on over here.
I'm really anxious to hear your list. This is maybe help me since I haven't had much success exactly on online shopping for bourbon.
I'm sorry. So I just got like a very strong butterscotch taste on that.
Really?
Drink. Yeah, that was really good. And it just hit me like a brick wall to the face.
Butterscotch is good. I'll go back to this
for sure.
This bottle. This is good stuff. I like it too.
All right, that is excellent. The Michter's Rye, I highly recommend. So before we get into the first topic today, I want to talk to you about a little project that I'm going to do.
I'm curious about this one. What are we talking about here?
So have you ever had Pappies?
I've never had Pappies.
Okay, so it's technically an old Rip Van Winkle. It's the 10 year. So you don't get technically into Pappies until you get to the 15 year. So there's old Van Winkle 10, and then there's the Lot B, which is the 12 year. And then you get into Pappy 15, 23, and so on. Now,
gotcha.
The 10 year that I have is good. It's not cheap, certainly. It's not my favorite drink on my shelf. I will say that, and that's a lot of people's opinion that I talk to. They're not necessarily the best things out there, but they are nevertheless delicious pours and very highly sought after.
Right.
Now, the 15 year, if you look for it on secondary, runs about $2,000, which is pretty steep for a bottle. That's my league at this point.
Out of my league.
Now, but what I'm about to tell you is there may be a solution to that. And it doesn't involve shopping online or finding it in a store or anything like that. Have you ever heard of the term poor man's pappy?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm about to delve into is making my own batch of poor man's pappy. So currently on the way to my house, I have a bottle with a tight cork coming, a 750 milliliter bottle. I have some funnels and measuring cups coming. And up on my shelf, I have a bottle of the antique Weller 107, and I have the Weller 12, which is what it takes to make poor man's pappy. So
Hmm.
you do 2 parts 12 to 3 parts antique 107. You mix them together, you let them sit in the bottle for at least, 3 or 4 weeks. And what comes out, a lot of people have said, is either comparable to the 15-year, sometimes better than the 15-year, depending on batches and what you've done and so forth. So today,
Interesting.
today or tomorrow, I'm going to mix up the poor man's pappy. I got my stickers that you put on the bottle and everything with Rodney Dangerfield and a cigar in his mouth, looking like Pappy Van Winkle. And I'm going to slap that on there. I'm going to mix up the poor man's pappy. And in 3 weeks, you and I will crack the bottle open.
That sounds
We'll,
like a fun project. Wow.
and we'll compare it. We'll have the 10-year-old Rip Van Winkle. We'll compare
Hmm.
the 10-year-old and in a blind, perhaps, see
Yeah, that would be cool.
which one comes out better. What do you think?
Right. That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm
Cool.
pretty stoked. I have almost a full bottle of both of the 12 and the antique. I really like the antique. I'm not so crazy about the Weller 12, but it's not a cheap bottle.
Right.
It's nice to have in the collection, but it's not like I'm drinking it every day. So
Right.
it'll be good at using that. So we'll see how it
Okay.
turns out.
Cool.
Right? All right. So on to our first topic. This is my perspective is this with respect to online shopping. So you can go to your liquor store and get everyday run-of-the-mill bottles, right?
Right.
If you're going to build up a collection involving some high-end bottles, sooner or later you're going to have to go hunting, and you're going
Rare
to
stuff. Right.
likely have to pay secondary for a lot of these bottles, like the old Rip Van Winkle, like the Weller line, like Stag, like Rock Hill Farms, Old Carter, all those
Right.
bottles that if you're going to have a high-end collection, those bottles are going to be in it. And really, I have some friends who say, I will, out of principle, never pay secondary. And my response to that is, that's fine. That's your decision.
Hmm.
But billable hour or whatever you do, what type of your job it is. If you actually calculate the man hours involved with hunting down each one of those bottles by the time you find it, it's way cheaper to actually just pay the secondary than it would be, to try to hunt down and maybe one
Right.
in 5 years you'll find a bottle like that, right? So
Hmm.
my opinion has always been, if you want something badly enough for your collection, find the best price you can online, but just frickin' buy the thing, because by the
Right.
time you're done hunting and driving all over the place and putting the hours into it, the cost is out the window anyway. You've
Right.
already burned that amount. So
Gotcha.
what I've done is, and the way that I've built up a lot of my collection is actually through online shopping. And so I've bought a lot of bottles online, and I have some of my favorite online places for you and what is
Right.
involved. Now, when you go online, some of the run-of-the-mill bottles you may actually find at a price lower than your local liquor store has. Okay?
Really?
So you can find competitively priced bottles. In fact, in doing my research today, I got tracked and found a bunch of bottles that I really wanted for cheap, so, not cheap, but MSRP. So, like
Right.
I talked about on the show before, the kosher buffalo traces that you can't find
Right.
anywhere, I found on a website for $65, which is MSRP, less than I actually paid in the Bennies in Chicago where I found them.
Really? Huh.
And so you can get some very favorable prices, and on top of that, you can find bottles that you'll never find in the real world, and they are delivered right to your door, and it's perfect.
That's
Now,
the part that's cool. I like, trying different things. That's what I think bourbon, the first year I got into bourbon 2, 3 years ago, was like every bottle's different. It's like, and it's so subjective. You may love it, I may hate it. It's like, so you really have to do the work yourself to see what your taste buds like and what you don't.
yeah, yeah. And the benefit too, like I just bought a Weller Foolproof for $250 online to my door.
Hmm.
If you find that in the store, you'll be lucky if you find it for 250.
Really?
So again, competitive pricing straight to your door. You don't have to leave your computer. You just put in your credit
Right.
card. Now, the downside sometimes to online shopping
Probably
is
shipping costs. They probably jack it up.
on the shipping. So
Yeah.
definitely have to watch out. By the time you add in shipping, which can be $20 to $50, sometimes more. You've
Hmm.
you've now exhausted any kind of savings that you might have gotten from going to
Are,
that
are,
site.
are some of these sites give you like a better discount on shipping when you're buying 4 or 6
What
bottles
you-
versus
So
one?
yes, so I'm going to review some of that,
All right.
and I'll cut through the chase. So that's what I want to
Yeah.
give you today. So my four favorite online places to go: caskers.com, so
Cask.
like a cask,
All right.
ERS.com. Wooden Cork, That's It Booze, and Sip Whiskey. Okay.
Hmm.
Now, oftentimes when you go to this site, if it's the first time there, it will pop up with a coupon,
All right.
$10 off or a 5% off. So a lot of them had President's
Right.
Day sales, 5% off. The percent off are the big ones because that applies to the whole order, and you can get a
Ah.
nice percentage off the whole order, like a 5 or 10% deal.
Mm-hmm.
But you might get, without those sales going on, you might get a $10 off coupon or something. Everything helps. Now,
Right. Hey, I got a question. We talked in the past about online shopping for cycling apparel. If you put it in your cart and wait a day, does it show? They send you emails say, "Hey, we'll give you a little extra off."
you will get an email that says, "Hey, you forgot something in your cart." Sometimes you'll get a coupon, the coupon you would have otherwise gotten going to this.
Right.
But you don't get the same thing like you get on
Okay.
sometimes. No. So, so let's start with Caskers. Caskers, I had one bottle in my cart and then two bottles in my cart, and the shipping price did not change. Now it may change with 8 bottles, for example. I didn't get that deep
Right.
into it, but it was $20 in shipping. Okay, not horrible, but it's a
Terrible.
$20 surcharge.
$10 a bottle.
Wooden Cork, which has a
Hmm.
great selection of all kinds of different alcohol, but it is definitely the most expensive. So I had 2 bottles in my cart for apples to apples comparison,
Hmm.
and at least to Maryland, it was $58, which is a lot of
For
money.
shipping,
Yes, that in my opinion,
$58.
that is cost prohibitive.
Whoa.
Unless your bottles are deeply discounted, which they weren't, they were comparable to everyone else.
Does it come in an oak barrel?
Yeah, comes with a
Jeez.
woman who jumps out of a cake and hand
Oh
delivers.
my God, that's outrageous.
Yeah, that's pretty steep.
So they're jacking their profits on the shipping. That's what I had to hunt. Some of these, you got to be careful, right?
Have to be very careful. And I will also tell you in the midst of this discussion, do not go to glensbarrels.com, where one of us had a very bad experience,
Right.
detailed online here. Uh,
Right.
you have to be very careful when online shopping that it's a legitimate site. So one
Right.
of the things that I do, just like we talked about with Amazon and
Others. Yeah.
AliExpress, I will, if I come upon a new whiskey site, online site, I will put into Google that name and reviews.
Right.
Very quickly, you will figure out if it's legitimate or not. You will get a lot of reviews. Yes, straight to my door, it was great shape, wonderful experience, or this place is a illegitimate. Don't shop here.
Right.
So always do that. Okay, so That's It Booze is the next
That's good.
place.
Right.
Have $25 flat fee shipping.
Mm-hmm.
Again, not great, not the worst. So compared to Caskers, which was 20, it's not that great. But that's flat shipping. So if you get a lot of bottles, that's not too bad. You're guaranteed the $25.
Mm-hmm.
If you go to there's another site that I did not mention, Ubooze, which I've never gone to. I can't recommend just because I've never used it, but it has free shipping for orders over $399. So if you're buying something really expensive, you
Right.
get free shipping. Um, and Sip Whiskey also has $20 flat rate shipping. Um, so it seems kind of the consensus is you're paying between $20 and $25 for shipping.
25. Yeah.
So like I said, in going through this, I think it was Sip Whiskey that had the kosher bottles, but there are some there are two kosher bottles that I really wanted that were very well priced, and then there were the two Redwood Empire bottles, the new ones that I mentioned on the show before, Grizzly Beast, and there's another one that I really wanted, and they are reasonably priced as well.
Hmm.
And so I may just bite the bullet for 4 bottles and flat shipping. That's $5 a bottle shipped. I may get those 4 bottles just because they're reasonably priced, it's worth it to me for that convenience. But that's kind of what shoppers out there have to figure out for themselves. Do I want to go on the hunt and try to find these bottles in a store somewhere? Maybe I spend 3 weeks trying to find a bottle like this, or do I just go online, pay $20 convenience charge, and get the bottles that I want?
I got a couple questions. So you mentioned four sites. Out of those four, is there one that, or any of them that specializes in your everyday things that you would see at the liquor store at a reasonable price versus the select things that you're really hunting for?
They all have both.
They all
Uh,
have both. Okay.
and you basically what I do is I'll go to each of these sites and just put in the bottle that I'm looking for, see which one comes up with the best price, and then I have to
Right.
figure in shipping. And if I really want it, I'll bite the bullet. Now, the other day I started my law firm in 2018, so I was flirting with getting a Old Forester birthday bourbon
Oh, that stuff looks
2018.
wicked. It's supposed to be really good.
Yeah, it is $1,500
I was
though.
gonna say it's over 1,000. I know that. Yeah.
I couldn't make myself bite the bullet. Maybe on one of
Yeah.
my big anniversaries, maybe I'll do it. But yeah, I was going to get something like that on there, and the sites are trustworthy. If you
Right.
do research, and so you just have to be careful of the shipping and the tax and how it all ends up. But those are my favorite
Cool.
places to go, and good luck to everyone out there shopping.
Are you gonna give us the links then later? That would
Mm,
be nice.
I will put the links down below when we publish.
Cool. That sounds good. So great tips, Hank. Thanks a lot for that. I'm curious to try one of those and
Do you
see what
ever
happens.
purchase bourbon online, Blaze?
Only at Glenn's Barrel. No, no.
It's not a good.
I've only ever tried once without much success. So this is hopefully will help our listeners and me as well,
Yeah.
with some better options.
Get out
So,
there and get some bottle. Like I say, you can find that kosher bottle,
mhm.
kosher wheat and the kosher rye, which I can almost guarantee you will never see in a store in Maryland.
I've never seen it anywhere. I've been all around the country. I've never seen those.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's
exactly.
cool. That's cool.
And by the way, on all the other sites, those two bottles were about $165 each.
Really?
So I'm gonna grab them when I
Wow.
can, yeah, and just kind of tuck them away in my
Wow.
storage area because I never find it again.
I'm assuming like on holidays they might have some special sales and stuff going on
Yeah,
around
like
the
I
year.
said, for
Right.
President's Day this past weekend, there was
Right.
a lot of them had 5 or 10% off or something
Hmm.
along those lines. So yeah,
Cool. Cool. So I guess we move on to our second topic of the show,
yeah.
which
Tell us
is
about bike prep. Well,
yeah.
actually, before we get into that, let's just remind our viewers to like and subscribe and share when you can,
Hmm.
because the show is growing. Thanks to everyone out there, we're getting a good number of hits on our shows, and thank you for tuning in and paying attention to us, and hopefully it continues to grow. But it won't
Hmm.
unless you help us with likes and shares and subscribe. So
Yeah.
thank you very much.
One add to that is I think we're going to try to mix it up and have some guests on the show in the future. So if you'd like to come on and chat about bourbon or bikes or a small business topic, we'd love to have you reach out to us and send us a message.
Yeah,
Um, so
definitely.
I thought I'd come up with this might be helpful to the general population of bicyclists. Again, we've been doing this for a couple of years, so we've learned a thing or two, like farmers over the years, uh, what to do and what not to do. So I thought I'd put together a short list and maybe show you how I do a pre-ride prep. And I'll preface it something I learned. There's certain things you need. Go over a quick list of things, but number one tip: go to a Walmart and buy yourself a little bucket like this, and I just leave it in the back of my trunk of the car so
Hmm.
that everything's in there, whether I'm getting ready to ride or I get to the ride site and I forgot something, it's always there. So that's the
Hmm.
number one tip. Key things, probably number one: tire pressure. Some tires hold pressure well, some wheels hold it well, some don't. So in general, you always want to check ahead of time. Get yourself a good pump. I had like a Joe's whatever pump for years, last me 10 years. Recently, I bought what is it? It was more of a high end gravel pump for lower pressure. Digital or not, doesn't matter as long as it's reliable and holds air and connects. So I think I got a lens Lenze, I think it is, pump that I really like. So check
Why?
your tire, yeah, check your tire pressure before you head out. Make sure you got plenty of pressure. And again, that varies depending on the bike and the ride and where you're going and all that. If I'm riding in rain or mud, I'm going to really drop it down a little bit. If I'm riding on the roads, I'm probably going to jack it up some. Number two, probably most important, is lubrication of your drivetrain. I've used lots of products over the years. I was a fan of Rock and Roll Lube. They make a dry and a wet. So that's
Mhm.
one. I've tried Wolf Tooth, has a nice little small bottle, so you can even take it with you if you want to, stick it in your bag. But lately, I recently switched last year to what's the product? I think it's a Silka product. It's the wax. So it's a two-step product, and what you do is you wash your drivetrain like you normally would. You use the prep, and what it does is it cleans it after you've washed it with soap and water, but it creates an attractive type thing where so when you drip the wax on, it's not hot. So it's a cool wax. I mean, you don't want to do it in the wintertime. You got to keep it a little bit warm at room temperature. But you drop it on just like you would any other lube, and it grabs to the chain because of this first product that you use. The advantages of it, I was turned on to it by my bike mechanic because he said, Blaise, you're going through your chains. You're tearing them up because of the gravel ride on the CNO. And with the other products, they were good, but you have to do it like every 2, 3 rides. With this one, it stops, it's not so much a magnet to the dirt, to your chain and drive system, which doesn't wear out your components like your cassette or the chain. So I've had a lot of success, and you don't have to put it on as often, which is nice too. So that's number two on
Can you
it.
put a link to that?
What's that?
Can we put a link to that up online?
Yeah, I could probably get you a link for that.
Okay.
It's pretty reasonably priced. I think it's like $35 for the two bottles, and it lasts a long while. So
Oh,
it's a little more expensive than normal, but for the wear and tear, and if your chain lasts longer, that's in your cassette, that's saving you money in the long run.
so is it considered a wax or no?
Yeah, it's considered a wax. I think they call it, what do they call it here? Super secret chain coating, ultra fast waterproof wax, nanoscale, tungsten diffusely, whatever the heck that is. But yeah, I watched, they have a YouTube video on their site so you can learn how to put the application on. The other thing I'll say, I've used Finish Line products over the years. This is another favorite staple, which is I use for my axles on the bike. And I constantly are checking to make sure the axle front and back are not dried out. So I'll put a couple strips of that on it, and that really helps a lot.
What is
Uh,
that? Just axle grease?
it's premium grease DuPont Teflon formula, all conditions. So basically, it's for anything like bearings, axles, that kind of stuff. It's a solid grease. It's clear, and you can wipe it on, wipe it off. It's sticky, so it sticks to your axle. It doesn't drip off or anything like that. Really good. Another Finish Line product that you might want to get. I don't use it as much. It's called Fiber Grip. This creates friction, reduces slippage. It's a carbon fiber assembly gel. I use that for my seat post.
Hmm.
So that's a nice product to have too when you're, not something you're doing every ride, but occasionally you're going to need it. Oh, one thing I didn't mention, get yourself a good tire gauge. I picked up this, and maybe put the link in there on Amazon, very reasonably priced. This is a Jayco product. It only goes up to 60 pounds, but they make one for road tires as well. It's made of rubber, so if you drop it, not a big deal. And this is brass. So you stick it on, push this button right here, and it'll show you just by pushing that button. And when you stick it on the valve, real accurate as far as are you have enough pressure in there or not. So that's a good thing to get.
I have a digital one. I have a
Yeah.
digital tire
Hmm.
gauge. I use it for my fat bike, especially because you're dealing with
Hmm.
such low pressures. It's really difficult on a regular pump to,
Right.
to read those. And tire pressure is everything with a fat bike. Fat bike.
Yeah. I mean, it's been years since I ran tubes, so I always have a CO2 cartridge or a couple. I carry them on my bike. I usually carry an extra spare tube in my trail pack as well. So you want to have a couple CO2s
Just in case
for,
with me.
yeah, right, especially with you. And then I usually have a small thing of Stan's tire sealant just to have, if I find out it's been a while since I ride, I'm going to put some in. But you're usually going to do that at home before you ride. What else? Three simple tools to have again in the car. I got a pliers, I got a needle nose, and a screwdriver because you never know what you got to adjust on your bike, as well as Allen wrenches, a good Allen wrench set. This is a
Especially
star.
5.6, especially.
Yeah, this is a star set. Again, I carry a Allen wrench set in my pack. So if we're riding with Hank and we have to do a minor adjustment on something, you got them covered. And always bring extra tubes with Hank and CO2, always. So that's a given. What else do I have here? CO2, axle lube, the battery charger. What do I have? Lights. Depending if you're going to ride in the evening, I have a little light for my handlebars, or I have this is cool. I picked up. I forget where I got this. This is one of those headband lights,
Mhm.
which works great. Like if I go up to the Gap Trail, I'm going to go through the long tunnel. It's nice to have a light, depending on where you're riding.
You get those at like Lowe's or Home Depot. I've seen.
Yeah, yeah. I think I got this at Moose Jaw or REI. Has a good selection of those kind of things. What else? I think those are the key things I have. Chamois cream. I usually have the small little packets as well as a big tube. I know you're not a fan of the chamois cream, but I am.
I'm not a fan of it. I just never have used it.
Right, right. So those are the main things. Make sure your bike's fairly clean. And we'll talk about, I'll jump over to after ride. I'm a little anal when it comes to taking care of my bike.
Do
When
you
I'm done,
do you ever take a spare pair of cleats with you?
cleats as
Yeah,
far as shoes?
like SPD cleats. Do you use SPD
No,
at all, or
no. I
what's
use SPD. Yeah, I do have a pair at home, but I don't take them with me.
okay? Some people take a well, and one of the things we might think about in July is making sure we have spare cleats with us. Something happens to those cleats, it's going to be a long freaking day.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. That's a good
So
point.
that's
Yep.
something that I always try to think about.
Yeah.
Um,
Something I did put on my list here, the basics, water with electrolytes. I usually use a Cliff Shot gel block. Summertime, if it's really hot, I might have some sodium tablets. Um, I like the Science and Sport product, but there's products out there. I think we talked about it. Hammer, Cliff Shot, Science and Sport, or some of the bigger ones. If you go to here's a good site called The Feed. It's out of Boulder, Colorado. They have a good selection of products. And if you're on Strava, you could sign up for the challenge. And like I just got an email this morning, I got a $15 credit at the Feed by riding a couple miles every month. They'll give you a credit so you can save some money on your nutrition. I know you're not a big fan of nutrition either, Hank,
yes,
are
I
you?
am. Yes, I am. I'm an Iron Man for God's sake. Um,
Right.
so I will tell you as my absolute baseline in terms of prepping, like when I get my car packed to go down in the C&O to ride with you,
Yeah, is there anything I missed that you
there
would
are
do?
three things that I think about that I absolutely I need to have in order to ride. Shoes, helmet, bike computer. Those are the three
Yeah,
things that I need.
that's true.
Obviously, you have to have the bike. Bike's on the
Right,
back, and
right.
then I think to myself, okay, do I have my shoes, helmet, bike computer?
Hmm.
Beyond that, usually the tool bag is already attached to the bike,
Right,
so I
right.
have that pre-packed. And I have my food and water in the front seat.
Hmm.
And then, but beyond that, the three things that I absolutely need are helmet, shoes, and
Oh,
bike
that's a good
computer.
point. Good point. Gloves, maybe too. You're not a big fan of gloves either. I like gloves. So when I'm leaving the house, I'll put my helmet there. I'll put my gloves in it. I'll put maybe a hat in it. I'll put my nutrition in it, my keys, my credit card, and that goes right in the back of the car. So when I get to where I'm going, I'm loading that all right onto my bike or in my vest or my jacket or whatever. So I think if you do those basic things, you're not going to get yourself in a pickle over a situation on your ride. Post ride, I was just joking earlier. I like to flip my bike over, wipe the dust off of it. Just, if it's summertime and it's light dust. I mean, if it's soaking full of mud, I'm not going to mess with it. I'll just stick it on. I'll wash it off when I get home. If it is really muddy, I'll try to make an attempt, depending on the weather, to hose it down as soon as I get home and get the heavy mud off of it. Two things. I usually have just some inexpensive microfiber towels, which is good to wipe the dust off or clean it off in the parking lot. And I picked this up from Orange Mud, but a beach towel would work because when you're done with a long ride and you're sweating, you want to go have a beer. You can wrap this around you and get rid of your bibs, put on a pair of shorts and a pair of flip flops, and go to the local watering hole to have a beer afterwards. So that's another nice thing for after the ride. And some people are into recovery drinks. I used to years ago would drink a recovery energizer drink, but a beer usually does me suffice these days. And one other tip for post ride, and I think if you Google it anywhere, they say you should always eat something within an hour of after a strenuous hard ride. Don't wait 5 hours to eat something. You should really, to replenish your body and your energy, you should go have at least a meal of some kind, sandwich or whatever, within an hour if you can do it.
Glycogen stores and the whole deal.
What's that?
To replace your glycogen stores and stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, there is, interestingly, they said for a while with respect to protein, like after lifting and stuff like that to recover, that you have to have your protein like within an hour of the workout, and everyone would be super crazy about getting their protein shakes in just within an hour and the whole deal. Well, the most recent study says it doesn't really matter. You could have
Really?
your protein before, you could have it after, you could have it 10 hours after, you could have it 10 hours before. It doesn't
Right.
matter as long as you have sufficient protein in the system.
Yeah.
Your body will synthesize it. So who knows? The science on that stuff is always.
Years ago, I would really spend 20 minutes stretching before I went for a road ride when I was into road riding. I haven't done it in years. I ran into Chris Carmichael at the RAFA DC club years ago, about 5 years ago. And I asked him, I said, you train professional athletes and whatever. Should I be doing a stretch before and after a ride? He goes, doesn't really matter. He says, if you're going to do it, you're better to do it afterwards to release the, what do you call it, in your muscles and stuff.
Lactic acid.
Yeah, the lactic acid. But he said before, he said, I haven't found really where it makes a big difference before as much.
If you stretch beforehand, you can actually take some of the explosiveness out of your muscles. And conversely, I found that if I do not stretch afterwards, I will be more sore than if I had stretched. So
yeah, I believe that. Yeah,
especially after a run versus a ride. But I do stretch, but it's always after, not before. And I don't get crazy with it. It's 4 different stretches hitting the major leg muscles, and that's that.
Yeah, my jaw dropped when he said, "No, I don't think before a ride you really need to do it." I was like, "Seriously?" Everything I read, they said you should. He's like, "Nah, I don't think it makes a big difference."
Really. It actually hurt the function of your muscles. So
that was funny. So anyway, hopefully these tips help you. Again, it's just some basics. I don't care what kind of bike riding you're doing, if it's mountain, cyclocross, gravel, or road. These are things I've learned over the year, but get the tub. That's the trick. Have it all in one spot. You can take it in and out of the car and everything's in one spot. Leave it in the garage if you don't want to have it in the back of your car. But that makes things a lot more simpler, especially when you're riding with Hank. You got to have this thing full because it's a Hank adventure, right?
Whatever, Blaise. My bikes have been good lately.
Yeah, they have been amazing. That won't last for so long. Anyway, these are good tips today. I was excited to hear about. I'm anxious to get those links on the Bourbon to try some of these online shops, and I'll try to remember a couple of these links for some of these products here to help people.
Yeah. And tell everyone what's going on next week.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I connected with one of the gents, and I don't know if he's in Pennsylvania or Maryland. I think he's in Pennsylvania, his phone number, that had done the Pans route that we saw on YouTube. So I think next week, if all goes well, he's excited when I said, hey, would you come on the show and give us your feedback on the pants route? He's like, yeah, heck yeah. So,
who is this? Is this the guy who kind of had the mullet? Or one of the other guys?
I think it's the crazy guy because that's the guy who Brandon said. So that's who I reached out to, Ted. I think his name is, I don't know, think of his name, Jake. I think it's Jake Haynes or something like that. But he's all stoked to come on the show. I told him, the name of the podcast. He's like, whoa, that's cool. I love it. He said, I'm so stoked. People are really into this ride now. There's a lot of people doing it.
Yeah.
I was like, cool. So
I can't wait to talk to him.
He wants to do evenings, by the way. He said evenings are best for him, so we got to figure out a night to do it. So we'll talk later.
Okay.
But that should be a good episode to hear his experience on a long bike packing trip through the mountains of Pennsylvania.
For sure. Can we get 3 people on this this forum?
Yeah, I think we can. We'll have to figure that out. Maybe we'll do a test run to make sure we know what the heck we're doing.
Yeah, that would be good.
But that's it for this week.
Thank you for reviewing that with us. And those are good, helpful tips. I'll remember to pack all those things in my bucket.
Yeah, right.
On the ride, or at least ride with you so someone has them. Thank you for joining us today, everyone. And hopefully you got something out of today. You got some places to shop for some bourbon. I'm going to go finish my order, by the way, right after the show today, get some bottles. And I'm going to successfully prep for my ride. And then we'll get ready to have a great guest next time.
All righty. Have a great week. See you later.
Everyone.
Take it easy.